This is his actual idea.
Let's figure out how to make a biscuit.
You step back and you go, wow.
I took like 20 people to Ecuador without knowing what I was doing.
Sleeping on the floor in a clinic made out of cinder blocks.
You're gonna die. It's like, that's irresponsible. You have a family back home. Some days really suck, honestly.
You're a discouraging person. No! You can't drive backwards with cables connecting two vans.
If I start a missions organization, you wanna be a part?
Freshwind is our annual youth conference where we gather every Easter to ignite our faith and step into revival. In 2023, we invited Kyle Philippi to share the story of his missionary collective, Farflung Tin Can. Enjoy.
Has mission in this context always been a passion for you, or how did you get into a bit more of this vein?
I was not always into missions. I mean, missions were nice, but I had never been on a missions trip until I started a missions organization. But I was always into video and storytelling and all things creative, and started this organization in 2010. My first missions trip was after I created a missions organization. That's kind of like open a bakery, and I've never baked anything. And then I open the doors. I'm like, all right, let's figure out how to make a biscuit. And I took it. So I took like 20 people to Ecuador without knowing what I was doing. And somehow on this journey, you got roped in.
Yeah, you just asked me to come along and do some music, to produce some music. I started in mission. My dad took me to Casuna, Honduras when I was like 10 years old. So it was like 8 hours from the nearest electricity, driving through the jungle and on the beach. And we stayed in a clinic, and it was really rough. And then I went back there. My dad went back for like 20 years, 2 times a year, and I would go back every summer with him. So a kid growing up, my summer camp was basically just this remote village.
Tell them about the people group there.
Yeah, the people group was actually Africans that were shipwrecked during the slave trade who swam ashore to Honduras. And it was so remote that they basically built like a tiny African village on the coast, and it just expanded down the coast. And it was so hard to get to that even when we first started going there, they had zero influence in their village, even from the country that they lived in, which was Honduras. And of course, now there's been more roads and infrastructure that has reached there. But yeah, it was kind of this crazy historical piece of Africa on the coast of Honduras. And I grew up going there every year. And that probably made it much easier for me when he sat down with me at Tres Hermanos and said, hey, do you want to go to, was it Guatemala, the first one? Guatemala. Do you want to go? I was like, yeah, absolutely. This is kind of what I've done since I was 10. So let's keep it going. So
that village is such a far-flung story that's not one.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even that anymore. It's changed a lot. Like there's, like I said, the introduction of actual roads, because we used to drive like water over the hood. We had to have like snorkel vehicles. I mean, it was crazy. And then if hurricanes were coming, you had to cancel your whole trip and everybody get back to the city. And so, yeah, I kind of, I have pictures way back when I was just a boy of just with my friends in front of mud huts, and couldn't speak to any of them. But yeah, that's kind of like how I got into missions, and something that it's a legacy that my dad left me, that I've never been able to get away from. So.
And now we're 13 years into being an organization doing this.
So tell me a little bit about, in some of the crazy stuff that you do and this vision that you have that's part of the mandate on Farflung and what you're doing. Have you had people say you're crazy? And how do you, I imagine you have, but how do you navigate that and still stay true to what you feel God's
Yeah, when I started it, it was a foreign concept. You got to think too. We started in 2010. Instagram wasn't even invented yet. That sounds like we're like turn of the century or something. Back in my day, but YouTube was only a few years old. Facebook was only a few years old. Twitter was 2 years old. So like, the ministry that we have could not have been created 5 years earlier. We're really just. We're our product of the demand of the time. And so it was very hard to explain what we wanted to do because social media was not this huge thing. And for years, it was a slow growing process. We didn't have big budgets to go to many places. So there were many people, most people for the first 5 years did not ask us how we got started because they're just like, I don't even know what this is. So for a long time, people did not get it. And you just have to ask yourself, well, if nobody's done something before, it's either a really dumb idea or a really great idea. And for about 4 years, I wasn't sure. It was about flip of the coin whether this was going to work or not. And so you just, if you believe in something, you just keep sticking with it. And some of the stuff we do is crazy. A lot of the times we don't have the details worked out. We're very okay. We leave a lot of space on our trips that are just blank. People are like, what are we doing next? We're like, I don't know. We're going to hang out, talk, see, just leave some room for what the Lord might do. And then he does these incredible things that if we had made the schedule jam-packed, it wouldn't have happened. And sometimes we do crazy things that some people on the trip are like, I can't do it. That's okay. That's fine. This trip is your experience, what you want it to make it be. And so, I think it's just believing in yourself and believing in what you think God has called you to do and sticking by it. And not everybody's going to get it. And some people people criticize me that you have a family. You're going to go to this risky place. We've been to places where people said you're going to die. It's like, that's irresponsible. You have a family back home. And so you have to be able to weigh, is that irresponsible? Is it important enough? Is what am I doing? Is it worth risking everything that I have? And not everybody's going to get that.
Yeah, I would say in the face of naysayers or whatever, having a clear sense and remembering your purpose, like, why are we doing this? And it's been very clear from the beginning. Everything that we do is to tell a story so that other people can know about it and support it. So it doesn't matter if somebody says, I don't think that's a good idea. It's like, well, we're still going to tell this story, right? So that's it. That's what the purpose is. And then besides that, Hugh MacLeod wrote a book called Ignore Everybody and 39 Keys to Creativity. And basically the first chapter of the book, he says that the more creative or innovative of an idea you have, the less advice people can offer you because it's new. And people don't know. And if you don't know exactly what a good idea is, nobody knows. I don't know it, and you don't know it. We just sometimes have to play it out. And I think Farflung has had such a clear North Star for such a long time, even if it hasn't been in writing. Mm-hmm. It's just like the heart of the organization knew what it was about always. So if people said, well, you're going to do video to raise money, well, that's kind of outdated. And it's like, you just don't get it. Right? Like, that's not exactly, and maybe we're not explaining it good, or maybe there's no context. Maybe without the YouTube, Instagram, maybe it doesn't make sense yet, but we're working towards that. So just remembering why you're doing it, and then understanding that if you do have a creative idea, especially if it's like a divine revelation download idea, not everybody's going to understand it initially. And you have to be okay with that, and then you have to play it out, and you have to surround yourself with people that do understand the vision and are willing to work towards that with you. Yeah.
Find people that you don't need proof of concept for, that you don't have to prove, hey, there's many times where the team members, they want to try to take a chance. I'm taking chances on stuff, the puppet stuff. Like, some of it just feels like nonsense, but it's like, oh, I think this might work. All of us have a trust for each other that if one of us comes with an idea, we're like, you know what? Yeah, I'll back it. Let's just see.
Yeah. And with the kids stuff, that all came out of our conversations as friends and as people in the office going, man, we really, kingdoms operate generationally. And it's like, are we speaking to that next generation? Well, no. But there were so many of our own kids and other kids that were so interested in Farflung. Then there was this problem that arose that's like, man, we want to speak to the next generation and we're not. And that's how kingdoms operate. So, okay, what do we do? And it's like, well, then we start doing kids programming. And it was an innovative idea for us to say, we're going to take our real life missionaries, make them animal puppets, and tell their stories in the form of a kids show and in books. And will it work? I don't know, but that's our North Star. That's our purpose, is to tell our missionary stories. So if it is your purpose and you're doing it, you can't really fail.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work, that's going to lead you to the thing that does. So it's okay to fail, because that is one more thing knocked off the list to get you to where you want to be.
And that's another thing about an innovative idea or something new. is if you're going to innovate and you're going to do something creative that hasn't been done, then you're going to have to come up with creative and innovative ways to measure its success. So what does it mean for Adventures with Farflung to be a success? What does that mean? What does that look like? And if you the only way to measure your success is, well, we have to get a certain amount of subscribers or views over this period of time. That may be practical in a business sense, but if your actual purpose for doing it is to expose children to missions work at a young age to get them missions minded, how do you quantify that? And do you? So what does success and failure even mean if you're doing something new? And that could be hard to judge, but again, I think for us, and the thing that's happened so naturally in Farflung that doesn't happen naturally everywhere is just everybody who's involved understanding the purpose of what you're doing. And even if it's puppets, somehow it still translates. Everybody gets it. And that's been impressive in the organization. And he gets a lot of that credit.
Watch the full interview on catchthefire.tv. The link is in the description. And don't forget to subscribe.